Hello, I'm Adriana Patricum, and this is The Violin Explained. Now, back in the 16th century is as far back as we can trace the violin. The two earliest violin makers in recorded history are both from northern Italy. Andre Amati from Cremona and Gasparo di Bertolotti from Salon, Yamaha Corporation. The concept of the violin we figured would likely come from the viol. Not the viola, but the viol. Came 2 centuries before the violin and is slightly different in shape and functionality, as well as having more strings. It usually has 6 to 7 strings. Now, the anatomy of the violin. The violin has 4 strings: G, D, A, and E. Not only does it have 4 strings, but for it to function, there's a scroll, tuning pegs, fingerboard, F-hole, bridge, fine tuners, tailpiece, and chin rest. There is also a shoulder rest, not pictured, by the way. How it works. There is rosin that we have to put on the bow so that we can use it, the friction between the bow hairs and the strings. When you rub the bow across the strings, it causes a vibration, which is how we have pitch or sound. When this happens, we tend to have our fingers moving up and down, putting pressure on them to create different pitches. The thickness of the string and placement of our fingers determines the pitch. When you press down on the string, you're essentially shortening it by interrupting the vibration. This makes the wavelength smaller, which heightens the pitch. The strings are one of the most essential parts of the violin because that's how you have sound. If you don't take care of it well and clean it, it can cause issues in the sound and the quality of it. And as it is used constantly, it can wear down and you eventually have to replace the strings. Another thing to note is that when you are holding the bow, you want to try not to touch the hairs. It is horsehair, we have to rosin it, but your oils on your skin do not do any good for it. It will make the sound worse when you're playing over time. There's a very specific posture you need to use when playing your violin. This is an example from Two Set Violin of how not to hold your violin. He is one of 2 brothers who are very comical and tend to give light to playing violin and other instruments. This is how you properly hold the violin. How you hold the bow, to where you place the fingers, to how you have it on your shoulder. That is all very crucial into how beautiful you can play. Now, I mentioned before that the violin was first known in the 16th century. Well, this is kind of how it was. This is how they held it, and that's how their bows were, which is not how they are now. It has changed over the years, but not by much, because there's not much to it. But there is a lot at the same time. This, I hope, helps you learn a lot more about the violin. Now, it's not much different from the other instruments, but it's also very different. You got a higher pitch on the violin than you do any of the other instruments. Of stringed instruments, that is. Violin can be very difficult, but if you really want to, I believe anyone can play it. Thank you guys for your time, and you guys have a great day.